Hello and welcome to a preview of the forecast dashboard reporting platform. I'm just going to take you through some of the features and highlight some of the functionality that you might find of interest. Let's just dive in. What you see in front of you here is actually relating specifically to each asset, or if you're down at the component level, then it's components. We have three levels of dashboard reporting here, and we're starting, I guess you could say, at the bottom, right down at the project by project level. In this case, we're looking at buildings, and as you can see here, we have building components listed. So we have fire extinguishers, floor coverings, etc., etc. What you can see in here is the condition over the analysis period that we're reviewing on this particular what-if scenario. And what you'll also notice is that some of these, you'll see the condition is going up over that period, and there might be a triggering of a treatment which results in the condition dropping down, or obviously improving. So if we click on one of those where we've seen a treatment, jump on another one here, this plasterboard, we can see that over here this all updates with whatever we're looking at here. So we can see that in 2021 we're projected to perform the treatment on the plasterboard lining at this location, and it's going to cost $610. What you see down the bottom here is a full works program. So these are all the components that have been triggered in each year of the analysis period. Obviously we can filter these down to any level we need to, but this is a standalone in that it doesn't update any of these other reports. For those of you that are looking from outside of Australia, or where there might be other currency types, I'll just let you know that this can actually be updated by going to your regional settings and going into the currency section there and changing it to whatever your currency is, and this will all update. I can do a quick example for you right now. Oops. Just going into the regional settings now. I'm not sure if you can see it, but hopefully you'll be able to view the change when it takes effect. As you can see, if you're in the Euro zone, you'll notice that the dollar sign is still present up here. These are actually headings that have been included in rather than the actual data itself. So of course these can be manually updated as well. I'll just switch that back to keep consistency here. Okay. What you'll also notice down here is what's called a time range, where depending on the time that I highlight and make available, we can only see that in the top section up here. It doesn't affect this works program. So I can move this out to see, out of these 5 years, we'll look at the last 3 years. So kind of skipping for whatever reason. Also, if you can drag the whole highlighted section to the other end, and everything's updating here. So now I'll go and find something that was triggered within the first 3 years, which we can see here. So this gives us a lot of information here that we can play with. Everything is exportable on all of these charts. We can also export the entire page if the look and feel is something that we might want to put into a report. So obviously we can work this in the same way that you would work a Word document or such editing form. You can export it to a PDF once you're happy with it. You can put company watermarks on it, page colors, etc., etc. So everything here can be pulled out. Obviously this can be put into Excel spreadsheet as well for further work that you might want to perform on it. I'm just going to jump over to the next level now. We just looked at the asset level. I'm going to go up to the next one, which would probably be your go-to dashboard for most of your long-term financial planning. This is where we get to look at the asset class level, and we can have multiple scenarios. I've just got one currently that I'm presenting. In this particular area here, you can see the percentage that each of these strategic important types makes up in terms of total replacement cost. Sorry, I should update that. But as you can see here, the external components, these make up walls and substructure, so it makes sense that they make up a significant amount of the total replacement cost. But of course we can filter these as well. So if I just want to look at certain specific components, then this is what we have here. I can select to look at a smaller time frame, and of course I could select specific scenarios if there are more than one here to play with. The next thing I'll bring your attention to is that when I select one of these pieces of the pie, you'll see that we get updates over here. I'll just undo this filter and bring your attention, first give you a bit of an overview. So what we're looking at here is the average condition by strategic importance. So each of these strategic important categories, we get to see basically a very obvious picture that it shows you the average condition of each of those. That gives us a fair idea of the level of service that's being achieved. Down in this bottom area here, we have the top 10 worst conditions. So as it suggests, this is just picking out the worst of the worst that you have at that particular time, and in this case we're looking at the worst of the worst of these particular components in these particular years. If I select all, then that probably updates. Yep, everything is updates except for this last area here, which is your overall average condition. This is a weighted average condition over the period of the analysis period, which in this case is a 10-year analysis period for this scenario. Again, it's all exportable. So I'll just come back to this demonstration. I'll select high-end, your boardrooms and such. We'll go into, and I can press Control and select more than one. We'll go into public space as well. So I've got 3 selected here of just these components, and we're looking here at the worst of the worst. So these fluorescent lights in this location are standing out as the worst of the components in the selection that we're looking at the moment. So of course this is all exportable. Let me just show you something else here, and this is what I call drill in, drill out, or DOTO. So if we double click now on one of these, let's go to the public space, we see that now we've just dived into the public space, looking at the fittings, internal finishes and electrical. So we've dived into components here. So I might just dive into the internal finishes now. So I think this is a really powerful tool to be able to embrace this kind of features for really specific in-depth analysis. This is still holding on to the public space here. We'll hopefully be able to sort out this scaling issue here. And what you're seeing down here is reflected in just what we've got highlighted. So this is extremely powerful, especially in meeting situations where conversations can be quite fluid. I believe that the reporting platforms such as dashboards should always complement your presentations and be able to move at the same pace as the conversation. I think this Dido feature here of drilling in and drilling out complements that and achieves that goal. So you can see here that it's very easy to drill up. I can go into electrical instead. It's all the data, nothing, no tricks here. This is, once we get to this point, it's all reading from the data. So it's all, what you see is what you get. And we can go right back to the top again, and we're back to it. And if we've got a filter, we can unclude that. So yeah, this is at the asset class level, and it's quite powerful. And obviously going to be one of your primary dashboards for most of your long-term strategic analysis, long-term financial analysis and planning. Finally, this is a really interesting dashboard. As you see, it's not as exciting or noisy as some of the other ones, but I think what it presents is very powerful, in that now we're at what I call the bird's eye view of the organization, where we're looking down on multiple asset types, and if we're talking about universities, we're talking about campuses. If we're talking about schools, then yeah, obviously these can be different schools, and we can see their individual performance over that period of time. We can also see the percentage of replacement cost they make up. And this is a really interesting one. This is an overall organization condition. It's one of those numbers that organizations often feel is a little too watered down to have any significance previously, if anyone attempted to provide these. But I think this is a very interesting one. It's weighted on the condition you see here, but it's weighted on the priority of each of these, in this case asset classes, but it could be campuses, where you have campuses that maybe have higher visibility as far as presenting your organization to the public. Flagship campuses possibly have a higher weighting as far as where you would assess your organization is at that time. So either way, if you don't have any weighting, it'll assume equal weighting across the board. But this is obviously taking from the condition of those and then weighting based on your own assessment of the priority of each of these. So I think the fact that we're able to go into these and dive into the asset classes in themselves, such as that facilities level, and then even dive down into the projects, even though this is the holy grail of numbers of how the organization is performing, I feel that it still has a lot of integrity. Again, we have the range tool down here, where we can bring it back to a smaller section here. Oops. So this one will simply take what we select. So you can see that it's doing exactly what it should. There's no cheats going on here. And I can clear that. Hopefully you enjoyed this little preview of the functionality. There's a lot more to come, and I'll keep you posted. Thanks a lot.